Hello, vlog viewers. I took a break last week and decided not to post a new vlog because I've spent the past 2 weeks just reading and listening. I think our country could do a lot more listening and less talking, a lot more love and less defensiveness, a lot more humility and less jumping to conclusions. What I've learned in the past week is that, number one, our country is filled with systemic racism that's perpetuated by the white majority. And number two, I still have so much to learn. I've also learned that if you put 2 cups of zucchini in your brownies, no one will even notice, and that's a secret every parent should learn when trying to get their children to eat vegetables. But I digress. Our country is finally waking up in a way that hasn't really happened since the 1960s civil rights movement. It feels exciting to be a part of history, knowing that 2020 will go down in the history books as the year of coronavirus and racial injustice exposure. But it also feels exhausting. So much of me wants change to happen, but I know that in reality this might take a few more decades of fighting. If you haven't watched it already, you should watch the movie Just Mercy, which is now free to everyone online. If you just go to justmercyfilm.com, you can watch it from just about any streaming device. Here's a handy dandy picture of the Just Mercy film. It's based off the book and real story of Bryan Stevenson, a Black Harvard graduate lawyer in the late 80s and early 90s who fought to exonerate an innocent Black man who was accused of murder and put on death row in Alabama. He had to go to the state Supreme Court because of the intense racism present in the local court system. They didn't really want to find the murderer. They just chose any Black man who would fit the bill and satisfy the angry small town. Stevenson succeeded and managed to start an organization called the Equal Justice Initiative, EJI, that has since saved over 125 innocent men from the death penalty. Side note, it's a very moving film, and I definitely teared up halfway through, so just be prepared emotionally. Currently, I'm reading a few really great books. I just finished Harry Potter's Goblet of Fire, book 4 in the series. Seriously amazing. I cannot wait to read the rest of them. And I read the classic A Wrinkle in Time, which was an enjoyable short little read. I highly recommend it. But I've also focused my reading time on books that are a bit weightier, specifically on race. I'm reading a Christian book called Wide Awake about cross-cultural ministry in churches, and a book called White Fragility, written by a sociologist on why it's so difficult for white people to talk about race. Both are enlightening and humbling. I'm slowly realizing just how little I know about race. It's something that I've always assumed I know a lot about because I'm multiracial, I have friends who are minorities, I attend a church that is specifically passionate about racial reconciliation. But the more I read, the more I realize that's exactly what's so damaging to our country. The idea that in my own white privilege bubble, I'm somehow exempt from learning more about the perspectives and struggles of those who live very different lives than me. I will never fully understand what it's like to be Black in America. I will never fully understand what it's like to be reminded of systemic racism on a daily basis. I myself am exempt from most racial prejudice when it comes to experiencing it firsthand, but I'm not exempt from the reality that although systemic racism doesn't affect me personally, it's an issue I should care about deeply because it's so painful for my minority brothers and sisters. And so my goal is to stop acting like I know things, to stop listing off statistics as if being well-read on a topic suddenly makes me not prejudiced. I want to better understand how my ignorance, inaction, and apathy on the subject contributes to the problem. I want to stop being so proud and start humbling myself to learn more about a topic that is incredibly nuanced and complex. What I love about the book White Fragility is that it explores this topic. Robin Diangelo's premise is that white progressives cause the most daily damage to people of color. She defines a white progressive as any white person who thinks he or she is not racist or is less racist or in the choir or already gets it. White progressives can be the most difficult for people of color because to the degree that we think we have arrived, we will put our energy into making sure that others see us as having arrived. Ouch. These are hard words to swallow, but I believe they're words that should be should forcibly get us out of our white privilege comfort zone to see just how damaging our pride, ignorance, and prejudices can be. It's a myth that white supremacists are those that perpetuate systemic racism in America. I'm convinced that it's the white majority, the white moderate, the white progressive, and the white proud man or woman who assumes they already know it all and spend their time trying to defend their fragile white pride. It's this culture, this status quo, that perpetuates racism in America. I highly recommend this book as a starting place for confronting your assumptions, pride, and status quo with another look. Could it be that when white people aren't afraid of talking about race, that we can have real and lasting change and harmony? Could it be that when we admit that systemic racism is reality and that our ancestors created it intentionally, that we can start paving the road to intentionally unravel its destructive web? One last quote to leave you on, because we all know I could probably spend another half hour just quoting from this book. Whiteness is a category of identity that is most useful when its very existence is denied. That's its twisted genius. Whiteness embodies Charles Baudelaire's admonition that the loveliest trick of the devil is to persuade you that he does not exist. On a less serious note, I've still been obsessed with baking. This is coming from the girl who told her fiancé, now husband, "When you marry me, please don't expect me to bake anything more than brownies from a box. No chocolate chip cookies, none of that. I'm not a baker." 2 months into marriage, and I've been baking every week. I blame the pandemic and being too bored during quarantine. Either way, if you're looking for a fun mix-up on brownies, try adding a few cups of zucchini to them, and no one will notice. They taste delicious and are more cakey in substance than typical brownies, but super delicious. I made mine with dark chocolate cocoa powder for extra richness, and I highly recommend it. I hope you're inspired by today's vlog. Tune in next Monday for my 4th episode. Thank you.